So good afternoon. I'm Bill Hudson, one of the Medina County Commissioners, and I'm joined today by Commissioners Hambley and Commissioner Swedick. And I'd like to welcome everyone to this important day. To give you a little history, the county commissioners talked about building a new courthouse some 22 or 23 years ago. About 6 years ago, we assembled a committee, including Judge Dunn, Dennis Hanwell, and a number of other folks from the county to look at all of our county facilities, and we identified the courthouse as the most worthy and the facility in most need of improvement. And after 6 years, here we are today. So it is truly an honor to have this new facility, and quite frankly, I'm anxious to be in it myself. So I'd like to thank a number of people, including those folks that served on the committee. We have Nancy here from Brandstetter and Carroll, the architect who designed the facility. We have a representative, I think, from Gilbane, our construction firm, who has done a wonderful job in keeping it under budget, on time, and building a facility that we can be proud of for many, many years to come. We're going to have 2 or 3 speakers today, so I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Hambley to say a few words.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, this is a historic event. As Bill said a number of years ago, obviously I was in the State House whenever they were really talking about putting this project together. And for those of us, Sharon Ray, when we were commissioners back in 2008 and 9, and we initially were going to build another courthouse, and basically we got the same square footage for double the price by waiting this long. So, but that's the burden of making decisions. At times, you take the conditions, you do what the requirements are, what you need, and say, and you're betting on the future. This is a good bet for the future of the county. This is what has been needed. And the only other item and I know Bill, we have a number of people to thank, but I also want to make sure Scott Miller gets mentioned in that, because he basically is the commissioner's representative that has overseen this. This has been his job since day one and well before that. And I know that prior to me even coming back 2 years ago, this was on his mind. Somebody has to wake up every morning with a fire in the belly to get something done and make sure it's done right. And Scott did that, and obviously he deserves a lot of praise and thanks for seeing this project completed, although we know we've got the other portion to complete as well. But in 1969, and actually January 12th, Sunday, in 1969, they dedicated that building over there. So when we were coming up with this program, we were taking a look at that old program. We were kind of considering, like, how are we going to do it? We didn't have a band, and apparently court security is a lot different nowadays than it was back in 1969, where they can just do an open house and anybody can come in and have a free-for-all. But in January, that's kind of a special time. It started, was at 3 o'clock, just as like we're starting at 3 o'clock. But in the program, which is that we provided you, there's like a little quote about that open house program. They had actually a commemorative committee that William Batchelder Jr. Served on, as well as a number of others. About everybody except John Genderman passed away since that was on that commemorative committee to oversee it. But there's one quote that wasn't added, but I do want to read because I think it's relevant today as it was in 1969. In their program, they wrote, the committee, "Human nature hasn't changed much down through the years. And although the courthouse remains, to the majority of people, the place to pay fines and taxes, it still holds for many a fierce loyalty and aversion to change, as demonstrated by the uproar and controversy over this latest courthouse. County commissioners are indeed a beleaguered lot, but all can finally agree this day that they have done their work well." And my hope is that in same number of years, that people will say the same thing about this courthouse. That not only we, the commissioners, did well, the county did well, and all the elected officials and everybody involved did well in creating this courthouse and a place for justice to be seated and for people to get justice. With that, I'll turn over to my colleague and incoming president next year, Colleen Swedick.
Thank you. My speech is just I don't know if you guys can hear me, is just largely about thank you. I'd like to thank Nancy and Monica way back years ago when we started talking from Brandstetter. You guys did such a great job, and Gilbane. Bill, for organizing us all 6 years ago when this all started. I really appreciate your leadership on this project. Most importantly, I'd like to thank Scott Miller and Stephen Bastian. As it mentioned already, Scott was the day-to-day person, but Stephen was also the one over here checking every room, checking every box, and without the two of them, I don't believe that we come in on time and under budget, and it is extraordinary in this day and age to come in on time and under budget, so I'd like to thank them both very much.
Yes, Stephen, come on up here. So this is the man on the ground that has represented the county and has diligently worked to get this done. And I'd like to give him, and please join me in giving him a round of applause. Thank you. You've done a great job. Thank you very much. Next, I'd like to recognize Justice Pat Fisher from the Ohio Supreme Court.
I used to do projects. I was a project manager for a while. I know how that is.
It's fun.
It's fun, yeah, right. But I love your tie, is what I want to say.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for inviting me. Actually, Commissioner, I think the most important sentence in the program I was given is, the first court was held at Rufus Ferris's barn, but it says here, Mr. Ferris, a generous and hospitable host, offered a milk punch well laced with whiskey to all who attended the first session of court. It would make oral argument in our court much more interesting, but we don't do that. Anyway, I originally was going to do a little historical thing on Medina County, and I had begun researching it, and I was driving up this morning from Cincinnati, where I left at before 6 o'clock. We had court, and then I came up here. But instead I want to talk about sunrise. The Great Seal of the state of Ohio is the sun shining, if you've ever seen it. And people always ask me, is it rising or setting? And it's events like this that keep me aware that it's always rising. And this morning reminded me, because at the first light, it's kind of purple, to be honest with you. First stream of light from the east. Then it becomes kind of a yellow or orange. And it slowly changes until there's a bright light about 7:30 this morning. And driving up here, I don't know if you realize, when I left Columbus, total overcast. When I got to Medina, blue skies. And what I want to tell you is, events like this, dedications of courthouses, the centers of justice in a town or in a county. But actually, if you go around Ohio, courthouses are the center of town. I don't care where you go. There's parks and stuff, one here, right across the street, right? But it, when first built, would have been the center of town, where everybody gathered for events, where everybody came together, and where the sunrise would occur philosophically every day in every county in the state of Ohio. And we should never forget that. Even Hamlin County, big city of Cincinnati, right? Courthouse was, when first built, the center of the city. And it's important that the center of the city, in my mind, represent justice. Now, justice may mean different things to different people, but it means to me fair, reasonable treatment of everyone. And that's what this building will represent and what it will do for your community, for the 9th District, among others. And you should be proud that you have a modern building. Because I can tell you, some of the county courthouses, not much. But this one, the old one, the one from '69, and this one, you have a true center of your county. I parked over in the administration lot because that's where a lot of the work gets done, right? But this building and the one before it and the oldest part were where justice was meted out every day by various judges, doing hard work, making hard decisions. It's not easy. People think being a judge is easy. It's not. You know the hardest judgeship to do is to be a trial judge in a county where you know everybody. You got to make a decision. It's going to affect everybody's life. I was an appellate judge. Well, if I'm wrong, that's okay because somebody else is wrong with me, right? On my court, if I'm wrong, there's got to be 3 others joining me that were wrong. But a trial judge in a county like this has high obligations and hard decisions to make every day. And they need a place where people will respect that opinion, that decision. And thus you need buildings that work and operate and fulfill the requirements of that community every day. And looking around, what I've seen traveling through this building, and I've been to the other part of the courthouse previously, you have that. And you should be proud of your county. And you should be proud that every day the sun is rising in Ohio every day of your life. Thank you.
A couple other folks that I would like to recognize. I want to thank Judge Dunn, Judge Collier, and Judge Kimbler. They were obviously integral parts of planning the courthouse and spent a lot of hours, and I thank you. Couldn't have done it without you. I see Scott Miller back there. Scott, would you like to come up? No? So let's just give Scott a round of applause. So thank you, Scott. We appreciate all your work and effort in making this happen. I'd like to recognize Representative Sharon Ray, if you'd like to come up.
Just for a couple of minutes, I brought an official proclamation from the state of Ohio. And Justice Fisher is absolutely correct. It is very dark and dreary down there and very sunshiny and light up here. So just so you know. I guess I just would like to say to all of you a huge congratulations from this. Steve alluded to it. We tried to do this in 2008. We got as far as a parking garage. Couldn't get any further. This is a building that absolutely needed replaced. People are visiting here in times of crisis. And to have judges and a facility that is accommodating to them, I think is so important. And hats off to all of you and to Scott Miller, who won't come up here. Scott, you spent so many hours on this project. Thank you very much. Medina County appreciates it. Thank you for letting me say it.
I also have a commendation from Senator Romanchuk in the Ohio Senate, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it says that many groups and people have come together to ensure a thoughtful design and planning of the new Medina Courthouse, and it's the work of visionary individuals that our state continues to grow and prosper, and we look forward to ongoing initiatives to benefit our society. And truly, this courthouse will be a benefit to Medina County and to the city of Medina. And I see the mayor of Medina is here. Dennis, would you like to come up and say anything? You don't have to. It's up to you.
I just appreciate being here and the fact that we have a safe courthouse now for all the people that in the community.
Thank you, Dennis. As we planned this, there was a lot of discussion and a lot of different designs on what should happen here on this side of the square. And at one point, we had considered knocking down the 1969 portion of the courthouse. And there was even conversations about should we move the courthouse out of the city of Medina. And the city of Medina has a tagline that says preserving the past and forging the future. And I think we've done that. I think we have well preserved the history of Medina, the city of Medina, and we have created a future here in this building. So with that, I want to thank everyone for coming today. Thank you to Justice Fisher for making the trip all the way up. We're going to proceed downstairs to the first floor, and we'll do our ribbon cutting. So if you would all begin to transition. So thank you for coming.